Welcome everyone to Consolidate, Simplify, Scale. Lean IT in Action. I am Tejas Madhu from Splashtop. Joining me today are Cameron Marsh from Nucleus Research and Jonna Fulmer from PB2 Architecture and Engineering. We are going to talk about how PB2 scaled nationwide IT operations with a 3% team and what Nucleus found when they analyzed the ROI behind that story. So to kick off the discussions, we would like to start with the introductions. My name is Tejas, and I'm a product marketing lead at Splashtop. I have been with the company for little over 3 years now, focusing on helping IT organizations through our remote support solutions and endpoint management solutions. One of the best parts of my role is connecting with customers like PB2 to understand their journey and bring those insights to conversations like this one. Off to you, Kamran and Jana.
Yeah, thanks, Tejas. My name's Cameron Marsh. I'm a senior analyst with Nucleus Research. At Nucleus, our role is to quantify the financial value organizations get from technology. In this case, measuring how Splashtop's been, they have impacted PB2's productivity, costs, and just really overall return on technology investment.
Hey everyone, my name is Jonah Fulmer. I'm the IT manager for PB2 Architecture and Engineering. And as you can guess from the name of the company, we're an architectural and engineering service provider for commercial spaces. We've been in business since the 1960s. We're probably one of the longer running architectural firms in the state of Arkansas. We've been helping businesses and achieve their design goals in the commercial realm for quite a while.
Thank you, Jana and Cameron, for that. So I think let's move on. So before we dive in, a quick look at what's ahead. The IT challenge today, PB's2 journey and deployment, results and ROI findings from Nucleus, lessons for lean IT teams, and audience Q&A. A few quick notes. All attendees are muted, but you can drop questions anytime in the Q&A box. We will address some live at the end. This session is being recorded, and you'll receive the replay link within 24 hours. So let's get started. So Cameron, let's start with you. From your vantage point, what are the biggest pressures you are seeing IT leaders face right now, especially as hybrid work expands?
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a perfect storm right now, right? IT teams are being asked to support more users across more environments and with fewer people and shrinking budgets, right? So tool sprawl is one of the biggest culprits of this. Multiple overlapping systems, and each of those has its own cost, integration, and learning curve. So really, the challenge isn't just about cutting back, it's about simplifying intelligently, right? Lean IT isn't really about doing less. It's more about consolidating the things that you are doing with the right things so that teams can move faster while maintaining control.
All right. And based on your research, where does consolidation typically deliver the most measurable value? Is it cost, time, or risk reduction?
Usually both, right? But cost and time are really where you see the fastest and most significant return on investment. So we found that organizations often spend, sizable chunks of overall budget each year on redundant licenses or, different tools solving the same problem. So when you consolidate, you're not just eliminating that overhead, but you're also reducing all that administrative friction. And automation adds just another layer to that, by streamlining, patching or remote support, you're reclaiming hours every week that can then be redirected to that higher value work.
Got it. All right. Jana, so let's talk about PB2. Let us tell us more about PB2 and the challenges your team faced.
So, as I said, we're an architecture and engineering firm that deals in commercial spaces. Um, Typically, these kind of firms, they're not necessarily huge, not all of them. Uh, at one point in years past, we were a pretty big firm, but we had to downsize due to um, the shrinkage that was going on in the market back in 2008 to 2011.
Mhm.
Uh, and we kind of went down to more streamlined company. Then over time, we've started to expand again. And then, like a lot of companies during the early 2020s, COVID happened. And a lot of people started choosing to work remote. A lot of companies had to, opt to send their people offsite to comply with CDC guidelines, and people were self-quarantining. At about that time, we had about a hundred plus employee count,
Mhm.
and the majority of them had opted to work remotely. Um, at that time, the only means we had of working remote was, old-fashioned VPN and RDP, and those tools, they come with their own set of problems and security issues. And they were honestly just unreliable, and they weren't tenable for what we were needing to do. So we had to come up with a solution quickly,
Mhm.
because we didn't have a means to provide support to those users that were going remote. Um, like I said, VPN had presented security problems, and with RDP, you can't provide support to your end users very well, because it doesn't provide a two-way connection where they can see what's going on at the same time you're working on their machine. And we needed something that would give us the ability to work in that space. And at the time when we were trying to resolve this problem, there were only two of us in the IT department. So we were both trying to run around and figure out what we needed to do to resolve this issue quickly. Because at the time, um, we were spending a lot of time in trying to figure out the problems that was going on with VPN crashing, or RDP not connecting successfully. It was just a big mess in the long run. So what we needed was a better solution.
Got it. So when you started looking for a solution, what were the must-haves on your list?
Well, obviously, we needed something that we could deploy quickly,
Mhm.
something that was reasonably priced, nothing that was, off the wall, crazy expensive. Um, because I can tell you right now, our CFO, he is a stickler on price. So anything we bring to him, we've got to be careful. Something secure, and something that is easy for the end users to use. Uh, and we wanted to be able to utilize that software just between the two IT personnel that we had at the time.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So I think you started with a small pilot of 25 users. So what did the rollout look like, and how did you decide to scale up to 200? Were you looking to replace an existing tool?
Well, we started small because we wanted to prove that whatever solution we went with would be efficient. So we didn't want to just, span it out across the board before it had, had a chance to prove itself. Um, so we went with 25, um, and quickly got things set up and running. We weren't really looking at replacing an existing tool set that we already had, because, like I said, at the time we only had just your basic Microsoft tools. Um, COVID just kind of set a new standard for everybody. Um, I can tell you right now that my boss, the president of the company, he was never too keen on remote work. I think at that time, at that point in time, before things like that had happened, most people weren't. It was just kind of an oddity. And then the pandemic happened, and it just changed the playing field. Um, so um, what we were needing was something that would, a tool set that would help us get this up and running more successfully. Um, so we had looked at a couple of providers, and we came across Splashtop, and we started. What honestly caught our eye right off the bat was kind of the price point. To be
Hmm.
honest, so we took that to our CFO, and he was really happy with those numbers we were bringing him. So after our initial call and communicating with what our needs were with Splashtop, we got our initial 25 people pool up and running, and um, we had opted to use Splashtop's cloud service instead of doing it in-house because, like I said, two-man crew. We wanted to do what was going to be easier on us because we still had several people that were in-house. And we also knew that when this quarantine thing was over, that a lot of people were going to be coming back, and we needed something that wasn't going to add a bunch to our plate.
Got
Um, and having it in the cloud meant that we would also have the great team at Splashtop there to support us whenever things started to go haywire.
cool. So was there a specific moment when you realized this approach was working?
Um, I couldn't really pinpoint an exact moment for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the light bulb went off, but I noticed a change. Over time, I began to see um, support requests um, due to flaky remote connections. Those went away because we didn't have to worry about VPN or RDP anymore. We was able to respond to support requests much quicker. Um, what was taken, you know, three times the amount of time before Splashtop, we were able to, just cut that back because just remoting into somebody's computer is a lot faster. Um, and even in-house support requests. Instead of having to run back and forth all over the place, we were able to provide support from where we were at to people that were in-house. I have to say that because of the uh, speed and the response times that Splashtop was providing for us, that our people definitely got spoiled.
Yeah, I think we do talk about that. Like the customer support is one of the best that we have in the industry. So yeah. And yeah, thank you. So moving on to Cameron now. So Cameron, when your team at Nucleus ran the ROI analysis, you found a 458% ROI and an 11-week payback. Can you walk us through what drove those results?
Yeah, sure thing. So first and foremost, really what stood out to us was Jonas talking about speed, right? And that ultimately is what drove most of the ROI. Jonas had their team of two at the time. I think it was changed into three eventually, but they're supporting about 200 employees nationwide. And before Splashtop, we were talking about each remote session would take, 30 minutes to establish, right? So if you can cut that down to seconds over time, that's a lot of hours very quickly, right? So they're reclaiming 12, 15 hours of admin time a week. So if project that over 200 people, again, that's where the most of that ROI came from. Also on the cost side, I think Jonah was talking about saving about $100 per user per endpoint per month, right? Compared to alternative remote access solutions. And because that rollout was sort of handled entirely in-house, didn't need a whole bunch of consultants, not a ton of external implementation, no hidden costs, right?
Mhm.
So that combination of reclaimed time, avoided licensing fees, and not a ton of third-party spend is really what all contributed to that 458% ROI.
Got it. Jana, that's huge. So what did those savings look like in the daily operations?
Well, it was very noticeable. It was huge. I mean, we were getting back 15 hours a week. Um, Instead of having to spend, I mean, Cameron talking about 30 minutes, that's actually it's pretty generous because, with RDP, just the back and forth you have with that that could take in some cases hours to provide support to somebody that's off site. Whereas with Splashtop, it's connect. We're both there. We can see. We can get the problem fixed, and we can get off. Um, we were, able to spend more time working with postponed or projects or neglected systems that we weren't able to get to because we are spending more time just helping remote or people in house.
Cool. All right. And I think you achieved that without adding any stuff. So that's a perfect example of scaling through simplification. So yeah, I think moving on, the Cameron, so looking at this through your research lens, what are the top best practices you would recommend to other lean IT teams?
Yeah, so I'd like to boil it down to three takeaways.
Okay,
First is consolidate. Every additional tool adds complexity, it adds integration points, and it adds cost, right? So if you can streamline your stack, that improves both control and return on investment. Next is automate. The more you can afford or offload repetitive processes like patching, ticket routing, endpoint monitoring. I'm sure Jonah could add a bunch more to this list, right? So the more of that you can offload, the more time that your team gets back. And third is scale securely. As you consolidate, make sure you keep those centralized visibility, right? Splashtop's AEM piece is a great example of that. PB2 is able to expand nationwide coverage without sacrificing compliance or control.
Okay. Thank you, Cameron, for that. So, Jonah, how did you balance consolidation with maintaining security and compliance?
Well, to kind of give an overall picture, when we went into this, originally our goal was just to find something that we could use for remote support and allowing our end users to be able to work remotely. But as time went on, Splashtop, and we had more time to spend in other systems in Splashtop, it became obvious that Splashtop was much more than what we had originally, signed on for. The tools that were there and the tools that have continued to be added to Splashtop, um, running remote scripts, inventorying, security, things that we didn't notice at first, but things that were added over time. It's just become our main go-to tool uh, for consolidation, our one-stop shop for automating processes, and taking care of the mundane pain points. Um, but with Splashtop's tool set, we can, not only handle our end users, but our systems and security, and making sure, all our endpoints are compliant with our softwares. Patching has become infinitely easier. Like I said, things that we didn't even think about concerning Splashtop at first. It's opened uh, a lot of doors for us, and it's made it much easier for us.
Cool. And I think if another IT leader is watching this thinking we are too small to make a change, what would you say?
Just do like we did. Start small. Try just a small group and prove the value of the tool, and then scale it from there. I mean, that's what we did. 25 people, and here we are, 200 plus, and um, Splashtop has done nothing but get better and help us in more ways than I can count.
Thanks, John and Cameron. Fantastic insights. And I do see we have few questions coming in from the audience, so we'll take some questions. So the first question that we have received is, when companies consolidate tools, what's the biggest hidden cost or challenge they don't plan for?
Yeah, I think I can take this one. So the biggest hidden cost isn't usually financial, it's operational, right? When organizations consolidate tools, they can sometimes underestimate the planning and process change required to make that consolidation successful. You're not just moving from three systems to one, you're redefining how your teams are going to work on a day-to-day basis. So the key really is about managing that transition. If you consolidate too quickly or without aligning those workflows or training users, you can almost create these short-term friction that sort of offsets the early savings. So companies that get it right really treat consolidation more as a strategic redesign, not just a cost-cutting move. So, standardizing processes, cleaning up your data, and making sure the new platform actually supports the way your people work and not the other way around, right? So the hidden challenge really isn't about consolidation itself. It's more of the change management that comes with it.
Cool. Thank you for that, Cameron. I think we'll take one more question before we wrap it up. So, what matrix or signs did you look for the 3 to 6 months after a rollout to know the switch was really working?
Okay. Yeah, let me jump in here on that one. Well, the first metric was uh, how many calls was I getting from people that were having problems just remoting in to access the data that they needed. Um, when we moved everybody over to Splashtop, the process was so much more simple than what we had been using previously that those kinds of calls went down to just almost zero. Um, everything within Splashtop, when we would send them the invite, everything that they needed to know was explained out step by step through that invite that they received. Second metric was um, like we talked about, how much time were we spending on calls? We went from half an hour to an hour and a half, to reduce that down to, in a lot of cases, 10 to 15 minutes, because we were able to jump on there and they could show us what their pain was and we could fix that pain for them. And the third metric was that I actually got to not stay at work all the time, and I actually got to and handle things in from the comfort of my own home occasionally, and when I'm on vacation. I actually got to go back to doing that a little.
Yeah, that's a relief. All right. Thank you both. I think we didn't get to all the questions, so we will make sure to follow up with those we missed via email to answer your questions shortly after the webinar. Just as a reminder, this session was recorded and will be available within the next 24 hours. You'll be notified when it's available. To learn more, you can download the full Nucleus Research ROI report or start a free trial of Splashtop remote support with AEM. Thanks again to Cameron from Nucleus and Jonna from PB2. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tejas.